I've been cheating since our third date, my wife told her friend over lunch. Marriage just made it more exciting. She didn't know I was sitting 2 tables behind them. I didn't interrupt, just went home, took her name off everything, and sold the car I bought her, along with every luxury item she'd racked up on my card. She got home to an empty closet and divorce papers on the kitchen table. She's been calling me every night since, screaming, crying, begging. 6 weeks ago, my life was on a predictable track. Now I'm living in a new apartment, with a new phone number, and a future that looks nothing like I'd planned, and I couldn't be more at peace with that. Names changed for obvious reasons. My wife Vanessa and I had been married for 4 years, together for 6. I'm 36, work in commercial real estate development. She's 32, in pharmaceutical sales. No kids, a mutual decision we revisited annually. I thought we were solid. Not perfect, but solid. The revelation came on an ordinary Wednesday. I was having lunch alone at this bistro downtown, the kind with outdoor seating that blends into the next restaurant space. I'd gotten there early for a 1:30 meeting with a client who canceled last minute. Rather than head back to the office immediately, I decided to stay and eat, catching up on emails. I was halfway through my sandwich when a familiar laugh cut through the ambient noise. Vanessa was being seated at a table about 15 feet away, along with her friend Melissa. They hadn't seen me. I was partially hidden behind a large potted plant, and they were engrossed in conversation. I was about to call out when I heard my name. "So James still has no idea?" Melissa asked, leaning forward conspiratorially. Vanessa's laugh again, dismissive. "God no. He's completely clueless." I froze, fork suspended midair. Something in her tone made me stay silent, made me listen. "I've been cheating since our third date," Vanessa continued, sipping her wine. "Marriage just made it more exciting. There's something about wearing his ring while I'm with someone else that adds an extra thrill." Melissa giggled nervously. "How many guys are we talking about?" "Total? Maybe 12. Currently active, just 3. 3? How do you keep them straight?" "It's not that complicated. Eric is Tuesdays when James has his late meetings. Chris is for when James travels, and Michael is... well, Michael is special. More than just sex." I sat there completely still, hearing my wife casually deconstruct our entire relationship. She went on to detail her system for keeping her affairs hidden. Separate email accounts, a second phone, even a credit card I knew nothing about. "James makes it easy," she said. "He's so trusting, so predictable. Always home when he says he'll be. Always tells me his schedule. I know exactly where he is at all times. Aren't you afraid he'll find out?" "Sometimes I almost want him to," Vanessa admitted, lowering her voice slightly. "But he won't. He sees what he wants to see. And even if he did, what would he do? The house is in both our names. My name's on his accounts. He'd have to pay alimony. He's too practical to blow everything up." They moved on to other topics after that, but I'd heard enough. I paid my bill quietly and left, careful to stay out of their line of sight. I drove home in a state of eerie calm. No white-hot rage, no breakdown, just a cold, methodical clarity I'd never experienced before. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I had already formulated a plan. First, I called my lawyer, Graham. We'd played college lacrosse together, and he'd handled all my business contracts. I explained the situation briefly and asked how quickly he could prepare divorce papers. "I can have preliminary paperwork ready by Friday," he said. "But James, you need to be strategic here. Don't confront her yet. Document everything. Protect your assets." "Already on it," I replied. Next, I pulled up our financial accounts. Most were joint, a decision I'd never questioned until now. I didn't clean them out, that would be legally problematic, but I did transfer my most recent paycheck from our joint account to my personal account, which Vanessa didn't actively monitor. Then I made a list of everything Vanessa had acquired on my dime. The Audi I'd bought her for her 30th birthday, the designer handbags, the jewelry. All items that were technically gifts, legally hers, but which I knew she valued primarily as status symbols. Most importantly, I made a mental inventory of what I could live without versus what was irreplaceable to me. My grandfather's watch, photo albums, specific books and records, the vintage motorcycle in the garage that had been my father's. These would be prioritized. For the next 2 days, I maintained perfect normalcy. Had dinner with Vanessa, discussed mundane topics, even had sex when she initiated Wednesday night. all while mentally cataloging every lie, every work emergency, every girls' night that now made perfect sense. On Friday morning, Vanessa left for a conference in the city, a 3-day affair that I now understood was likely with Special Michael. The moment her car left the driveway, I sprang into action. First stop, our bank. I removed Vanessa as an authorized user on my primary credit cards, the ones in my name only. I couldn't touch the joint cards yet without raising red flags, but I could prevent new charges on my personal accounts. Next, I called a buddy who owned a luxury car dealership. Explained I needed to sell an Audi immediately, even at a loss. The car was in my name, a gift to Vanessa but legally mine. He agreed to handle everything, no questions asked. Then I went home and systematically packed all my essential and irreplaceable items. Not everything. That would tip her off if she returned early. Just the things that truly mattered. These went into a storage unit I'd rented that morning. I contacted a high-end consignment shop about the designer items Vanessa had accumulated using my primary credit card. The owner, sensing a fire sale, came to the house that afternoon and made a fair offer for the lot. Handbags, shoes, unused clothing with tags still attached. All items Vanessa had purchased, worn once for Instagram, then relegated to the back of her closet. By evening, I'd signed a 6-month lease on an apartment across town, furnished with basics from a rental company. I'd set up mail forwarding for my personal items and changed all my passwords. I'd withdrawn my name from our joint gym membership, streaming services, and wine club subscription. Graham came through with preliminary divorce papers, not finalized, as that would take time, but enough to make my intentions crystal clear. I left these centered on the kitchen table with a brief note. I know everything. Don't try to contact me. My lawyer will be in touch. The consignment shop owner returned Saturday to collect the agreed-upon items. The Audi was towed to my friend's dealership. I took one last look around the house, then locked the door and left my key inside. By Saturday night, I was settled in my new apartment. I turned off my old phone, activated a new one with a new number, and waited. Vanessa returned Sunday evening, a day early from her conference. I know this because my home security cameras, which she didn't know could be accessed remotely, captured her arrival. I watched on my laptop as she entered the house, calling my name. Saw her confusion as she noticed things missing. Watched her rush upstairs, then returned to the kitchen where she found the divorce papers. Her face went through a remarkable transformation. Confusion to shock to calculation to fear. She immediately called my phone. When that went straight to voicemail, she tried again and again. Eventually, she sat at the kitchen table, reading through the papers, her expression hardening into something between rage and panic. The text started around 8 p.m. Whatever you think you know, you're wrong. This is insane. We need to talk. You can't just leave like this. It's childish. Please call me back. This is all a misunderstanding. By midnight, the tone had shifted. I made some mistakes, but you're overreacting. Everything I did was because something was missing between us. You're throwing away 6 years over nothing. Do you know how many women would kill to have what I had with you? I didn't respond to any of them, just documented each message methodically. The next morning, I went to work as usual, informed my boss of my situation, and requested that Vanessa not be allowed into the building. He agreed without pressing for details. That afternoon, Graham called to tell me Vanessa had shown up at his office, demanding to know where I was. He'd reminded her that communicating through counsel was standard procedure in divorces, particularly those involving infidelity. She'd left in tears, but not before threatening to ruin me if I didn't talk to her directly. Over the following days, Vanessa cycled through every manipulation tactic imaginable. She reached out to mutual friends, spinning a story about me having a mental breakdown. She showed up at my parents' house. They refused to give her my new address. She even filed a missing person report, which was quickly dismissed when I spoke to the officers. 2 weeks in, she changed strategies. Started leaving tearful voicemails about how sorry she was, how she'd do anything for another chance. When that didn't work, she threatened to take everything in the divorce. By week 3, she was claiming some of the missing items were irreplaceable family heirlooms that I'd stolen, items I had documentation for, and, in some cases, had never existed. Throughout all of this, I maintained complete silence. No responses, no engagement, nothing that could be twisted or used against me. Graham handled all communication, presenting evidence of her infidelity when necessary. The security cameras had caught her bringing men to our home while I traveled. Her second phone, which she'd accidentally left behind in her haste, provided additional proof. It's been 6 weeks now. The divorce is proceeding smoothly, all things considered. The house will be sold, assets divided according to the prenuptial agreement she'd signed without reading carefully. She'll get less than she expected, but more than she deserves. Vanessa still calls my old number every night between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m., screaming, crying, begging. I know this because the voicemails forward to an email account I check weekly. I don't listen to them anymore, just document that they occurred and forward them to Graham. Last week, I ran into Melissa at a coffee shop. She looked uncomfortable but approached me anyway. "I'm sorry," she said simply. "If I'd known you were there that day." "You would have what?" I asked. "Warned her? Helped her maintain the lie?" "I don't know," she admitted, "but for what it's worth, she's a mess. She's lost weight, called in sick repeatedly. The pharmaceutical company is considering termination." I nodded, not out of concern but acknowledgement. Actions have consequences. As I turned to leave, Melissa asked, "Do you ever think about giving her another chance?" The question was so absurd, it nearly made me laugh. Would you trust someone who betrayed you for 6 years? Who had a system for cheating? Who gambled with your health by sleeping with multiple partners? "I guess not," she conceded. "Then you have your answer." I sometimes think about the version of me who sat in that bistro 6 weeks ago, trusting, oblivious, planning a future with a mirage. I don't pity him, but I'm grateful to no longer be him. The trust is gone, but so is the deception. The life I planned has vanished, but the one taking shape feels more authentic. Vanessa thought she had me figured out, too practical, too predictable to blow everything up when confronted with her betrayal. She wasn't entirely wrong. I am practical. I am methodical. But she missed something crucial. Those qualities make for a calculated exit as much as a stable presence. She gambled that I would either never discover her affairs or would be too afraid of change to leave if I did. She lost that bet. Now we both live with the results. Update 3 months later. Since many asked for an update, here's where things stand. The divorce was finalized last week, faster than usual due to the prenup and overwhelming evidence. Vanessa appeared subdued at the final hearing, a shadow of her former confident self. She didn't contest anything in the end, likely advised by her lawyer that fighting would only drag out the inevitable and potentially cost her more. The house sold quickly in this market. After the mortgage was paid off, the remaining equity was split according to the prenup formula, 70-30 in my favor since I had made the down payment with premarital funds. Vanessa tried arguing that her contributions to the marriage warranted more, but the evidence of her systematic infidelity undermined any such claims. Professionally, I've thrived, channeled all the energy that used to go into my marriage into work instead, closed the 2 biggest deals of my career, which led to a promotion. Ironic that the collapse of my personal life coincided with professional advancement, but I'll take the win. Vanessa was indeed terminated from her pharmaceutical sales position. According to mutual connections, she's moved back to her hometown, working retail, while living with her parents. The glamorous life she constructed through my financial support has evaporated entirely. The nighttime calls finally stopped about a month ago. Her last voicemail was different from the others. No screaming, no crying, just a quiet acknowledgement. "I understand now why you did it this way. I wouldn't have listened otherwise. I'm sorry, for whatever that's worth." It's worth very little, to be honest. 6 years of lies can't be erased with one moment of clarity. As for me, I've started to rebuild. Bought a house in a different neighborhood, smaller but with good bones, a project to focus on. Reconnected with friends who'd fallen by the wayside during my marriage. Even started dating casually, though I'm transparent about my trust issues. Several people have criticized my approach as too calculated, suggesting I should have confronted Vanessa directly. To them, I ask, what would that have accomplished? Given her a chance to manipulate the narrative? Allowed her time to hide assets? Or fabricate, counter-accusations. The clean break was not just emotionally necessary, it was strategically sound. Others have suggested my story is about revenge. It's not. It's about consequences. I didn't actively try to ruin Vanessa's life. I simply removed myself and my resources from it. The collapse that followed was entirely of her own making. The most valuable lesson from all this has been learning to trust my instincts. Looking back, there were dozens of red flags I rationalized away. Late nights, unexplained expenses, emotional distance followed by periods of intense affection. The signs were there. I just wasn't ready to read them. For anyone in a similar situation, protect yourself first. Emotions can be processed later, once you're safe from further manipulation. And remember that the person who could lie to your face for years is not the person you thought you married. Act accordingly. Edit to clarify. A few commenters questioned the legality of selling the Audi. The car was titled solely in my name, registered solely in my name, with insurance solely in my name, paid for entirely with my premarital funds. It was a gift in the social sense, but legally remained my property. I consulted with my attorney before taking any action to ensure everything was above board.